I decided to try something different today. Still recovering from COVID and all that jazz. And what a way to say, I wonder what my energy levels are like, than to try doing the pig squat workout. I clearly did not complete it, and it's not for a lack of strength. Even in the last set that I did, the weight was still just flying up. But my problem was I have no capacity for endurance. And that is a consequence, one, of my training, but two, could be a result of reduced energy levels, from being sick with COVID, which does kind of wear you out. But I had no capability to keep going. The feeling in my legs was just straight jello. And it's kind of an interesting thing about the way this workout is structured. So if you haven't heard of this workout before or done it before, how it's set up is that you start out at 20 reps at 20 kilograms, so 44 pounds. Then you go to 19 reps at 30 kilograms or 66 pounds. And you keep doing this over and over and over again, adding 10 kilograms every single set and reducing one rep until you finally hit one rep after 20 sets at 462 pounds or 210 kilograms. And I knew I wasn't going to finish just going into it. I can't hit a lot of these weights right now, namely the 396 pounds, 480 pounds, 440 pounds, 462 pounds. That's just outside of my range of capabilities right now. But I wanted to see at least how far I could get, and the answer is really not that far. In terms of just overall cumulative load of the entire workout, which isn't really a value that I look at too often because it's not the best indicator at times of the quality of a workout or what you're doing, just because it's saying, oh, I did this much over this amount of time. But I only made it to the sixth set. So I only did 154 pounds, 70 kilograms for 15 reps. And that is about 10,000 pounds of squatting, which is higher than a total cumulative load of my normal workouts. But in terms of like weight to set, per set, it really isn't that much. Weight on the bar in each set, there really isn't that much. But the thing that really adds up is that when you factor in kind of how heavy I usually am doing some of these workouts, like let's take, for example, the 310 pounds I did last week before I got sick. The cumulative load on that set, it's only like 1,550 pounds, whereas on this set right here at 88 pounds, cumulative load's 1,584. So overall, I'm moving more weight than that set at 310. But what really gets to you is just the sheer volume. I've never been since I've started kind of working out with weights, I haven't been able to do high volume weights or high volume sets of like body weight squats or low weight squats on the barbell. And I think that's just a consequence of training that I do, and that I focus on sets of 5 or lower. Sometimes I go a little bit higher, but I really don't train high volume, so I don't have a lot of capacity for that. And one thing that I really felt going through and doing this was just so much lactic acid building up in my legs. And that was, oh my God, the feeling it's been a long time since I felt of something like that. I was having to roll my legs just to get the acid out of my legs, and just try to break it up as much as I could, just so I could do the next set. And I had to seriously assess after each one just whether or not this was feasible for me to keep doing. And even then, with going on, looking at where I was at in terms of just total cumulative load, the sixth set, so 15 reps at 154 or 70 kilos, is a total load of about 2,300 pounds just for that set. And then it puts me at a total a cumulative load of 10,010 pounds. Over the course of the entire workout, the cumulative load of the entire workout is like 38,500 pounds. And you don't hit the peak in terms of total load until about the 11th set, or not the 11th set, the 10th set, when you do 242 pounds or 110 kilos for 11 reps at 2,662 total pounds moved just in that set. And then it starts going downhill from there and getting a little bit easier. So it definitely has a nice curve to it, but you feel every bit of that curve as you're going up and doing these sets. And you can see me pausing and catching my breath, and just kind of assessing the feeling in my legs and whether or not this was still something that I could keep doing going forward, just because of the amount of strain it put on my legs. This is something I've always wanted to try, and I figured, hey, haven't really done much in a week or so. Let's just kind of sit down and do something to get to move. And wow, did it really kind of have an effect on me as I was going through and doing this. It is a beast of a workout. It's something that I've watched people do, like Zach Telland or Ivan Durick, and just kind of think, hey, I want to give this a shot just to see how far I can get. And apparently the answer is not very far at all. So to be honest, since I really couldn't get far into that, I don't think this really deserves to be called a pig squat. It's more like a piglet, just because I barely got a quarter of the way through, maybe a little bit further than that. I mean, if you look right now, I'm blasting through these weights. There's no doubt that I can move this weight with no issue, but it's just the endurance of this. It is something that I hadn't really thought of how grueling that would be. And I was even giving myself, 4 or 5 minutes rest between these sets just to try to recover and roll out as much of the lactic acid as I could, but it just would not go away. And it was something that I was just not used to. Following this set, I've included a chart right here just to kind of look at the amount of time that, not the amount of time, but the way that the weight curves cumulatively in these sets, just because it's hard to visualize sometimes because of how much it just builds. So if you kind of look at this, I made it to the 6th set, so 154 or 70 kilos, and that's not even anywhere close to the peak. I've still got another 5 sets, until I hit 110 kilos to max out and hit this curve to kind of to keep going. In theory, in terms of what I'm capable of, I'm more than certain that if I were to do these individually over time, just give myself time to get through it, I could maybe get through a set of 8 at 140 kilos or 308 pounds. It would be definitely a bit of a slog for me, but I think I could pull it off if it was like the first set I would do of like an actual workout. But some of these, looking back at them, the 242 for 11, with a cumulative load of that 2,662 pounds, that's a lot of weight to move. And I don't know if I can necessarily do that. So that's something I might just kind of chip away at and say, hey, let me see if I can break this down and see how it feels, what it feels like to be under this load at this particular rep range. Though I don't think I'm really going to attempt this for quite some time until I'm maybe doing, 418 pounds for a set of 3, or, I can double 200 kilos, just because the sheer amount of work to go into this requires so much more overall strength and just overall capacity than what I have right now, that it's just going to take a lot more time to be able to develop the skill set necessary to be able to do this. So I really do want to try this again. It was a nice little challenge for me, but oh my God, I did not give this the appropriate amount of respect that it needed to be able to accomplish this kind of workout. So I've learned my lesson, and I'll probably try again, in a few months or something, as something just kind of fun to do, periodically in like a deload or whatnot, because it was fun. But I think I need to work on my endurance just because I don't have any at all. So moving on from this, I ended up doing some axle bar deadlifts, and those were quite a lot easier to do than than a pig squat routine. I'll tell you that much. I mean, again, this is something that I'm used to doing. I've done it a couple times before, but it's still not like it's the easiest thing in the world. I also need something to kind of de-escalate the tension in my quads and kind of balance it out with my hamstrings a little bit. So I figured, hey, what's something else that I can do that's deadlift related that I haven't done in a while that would be kind of fun and would stretch out my legs. So chose to do axle bar deadlifts. Did a set of 5 at 135. Did a set of 3 at 225. And I really focused to make sure that I was getting that good activation in my hamstrings that I've kind of really started to focus on following last week's deficit deadlift workout where or previous workouts with it, where I've just kind of honed in on the fact that is what is holding me back, is the improper activation of my hamstrings. This double at 270, I really made sure to focus on hitting that activation, just because if not, I'm not going to be able to get the weight up. And, surprise, surprise, that does happen later, but that's just because this is a much harder lift when there's no whip to the bar, and you can't lock in your grip as much. So this set at 315, just did it for a single, and when I pulled it, it didn't feel too bad. So I went ahead and moved on to 350, I believe, in the next set, or in the next rep. 350, pulled that fairly well. And then moved on to try to do 380. Could not budge that off the ground at all. So that was, there's one thing that's always kind of humbling is not being able to move certain weights. I think my best axle bar deadlift is 365. So, not really touching that max, just kind of doing this for fun. But, overall, I think a fairly productive workout, just something to kind of try things out and play around a little bit. So don't really give myself too many opportunities to do that. And it's always nice to really kind of take a moment and just do something different. But, man, pig squat workouts, that is a monster. I would recommend it just to kind of try it out and see how you do. Just because, again, it's kind of a humbling experience. If you train more for endurance or just overall, rather than just absolute strength, you might have a better time at it than I did. But it's rough, but it's fun. So give it a shot. I don't know. I'll try it again maybe at some point.